Oh, me, oh, my.
This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
Today's episode of Doc and Jock is brought to you by Score, a new mobile app coming soon. Score is an interactive game that lets users win deals at bars and restaurants based on what's going on in live sporting events. Find new places to watch games and save money on your bill at the same time by taking advantage of Score's unique interactive specials that give you an additional stake in the action. A Score special can be anything a location wants it to be, from 10% off an item if a team scores a touchdown, to a free round of drinks if a quarterback throws for 400 yards. Any stat can be turned into a game. Pick the deals you want to win, watch the games you want to watch in Score deals in real time. The app will update when your team or player records a relevant stat. When the conditions of your deal are met, the coupons are sent to your device to show your server or bartender. It's that easy. Score is coming to the App Store and Google Play soon. For more information, check them out on the web at score-app.io and follow them on Twitter and Instagram at Score Deals. Score, watch games, Score Deals.
Is there a sports podcast in Detroit that people are talking about?
Hey, everybody, this is Freddie Cohen of ESPN Radio. When I'm not talking about breaking news or breaking news on ESPN Radio, I'm always a fan and listen to the Detroit Sports Podcast, and so should you.
So, Cuz, I got news for you.
What's up?
Gronkowski and Juju are suspended.
I know, my team, just like last year.
You got
suspended.
both of them.
Everybody's suspended at my squad.
Were you like, oh my God, dude, seriously? Two guys that are on my fantasy team, key components that could score you points against maybe your beloved co-host. Your guys are suspended, dude.
Yeah.
Seriously? That's some messed up karma.
And if you look at my team, I'm very dependent on Rob Gronkowski as a tight end. My backup tight end is not very good. I ended up picking up Jordan Reed, hoping that he would eventually get healthy. He hasn't been healthy in like 6 or 7 weeks because somebody else dropped him. So I had to go out and I ended up picking up David N Jock. So hopefully he can find the end zone. I have no idea. Browns suck. And then, Juju Smith-Schuster there. I don't have any wide receivers on my team. It was very running back heavy. And I got lucky enough to go and find him in the dirt pile and pull him out. But geez Louise, man, this is going to be a rough game for me this week. And you know what? I think you owe me an apology here. You sat there, 13, 14 weeks ago, lambasting me for your fantasy squad. And here we are in week 13, and you're going to the playoffs, bro.
Oh, yeah, as the 6th seed and the underdog.
That's you ended up having the roughest division, though. Everybody from your division got in. And it was like, in your division, I think everybody finished, 7-6, right? Everybody did. It was just who beat who in tiebreakers. So you were right there, man. You could have ended up with a 4th seed.
I had to pull out all my skills. I picked up a great quarterback in Jared Goff. He dropped some performances that were really unbelievable. And so now it's Doc versus Jock, round 1. You're the favorite. And I did pick up Green Bay's running back, so I got a situation where they're playing Cleveland, so I'm going to have to probably insert him. Obviously, the last couple of weeks didn't go according to plan. I finished the year 7-6. Golden Tate didn't do much the last couple of weeks. I have to debate and go to the insiders and ask, should I play him on the road versus Tampa, because it's a nice weather situation. He should be able to maybe rebound, but Stafford has an injured arm, so it's going to be a fun matchup, but I got nothing to lose, really. I mean, I did a great job based on the hand that I was dealt. I'm super excited to play you. I have an opportunity. You are basically favored to win by 3 or 4 points, so It's going to be competitive. There could be a couple mistakes made on both sides based on roster selections, but in the end, it's going to be basically up to luck and who performs that day. A lot of my matchups that I got going on, who I'm starting, there's some favorable matchups going on at home too, so I'm pretty happy. I'm going to give myself the best chance. Let the better team win, baby.
And look at it this way, right? This is something I don't think you can say where you've been in quite a long time. Going into next season, You've got a couple pieces to really build your team around.
Obviously, I'm going to keep Kamara. I'm going to keep Kamara. Dude, that's going to be awesome. Yeah.
So you're welcome for Kamara,
yes,
and you're welcome for Mixon. And look, I tried to hook you up with wide receivers. I thought Julio Jones would score a few more touchdowns. I thought T.Y. Hilton wouldn't be boom or bust. Hey, look, man, I tried for you. I'm sorry it didn't really work out the way you wanted.
It actually made it more fun because I had to do some more work. I had to actually look through the waiver wire. I had to kind of decide on some things, and it's going to be fun. And that's the way it's supposed to be. 2 hosts battling it out. I'm the underdog, so I got nothing to lose. Similar to Harbaugh always being the underdog.
Actually, looking at if this is right, if what I'm looking at right now is correct, you're projected to win by 1 point.
All right. But
it is going to be nip and tuck.
But you got to remember, too, Mixon has a concussion, so I might have to pull him out and then insert another running back or make a decision, and I have to watch and see how he practices and things like that. I might not even start him just in case.
That's all right.
One hit away.
I got Chris Hogan in there, and Chris
Right.
Hogan hasn't played in weeks, too, so just like Jordan Reed. So whatever, man.
All right.
It's what it is.
All right, everybody, welcome to episode 226. I can't believe it. Each and every week, the number goes up. We've been podcasting consecutively every single week since September of 2013. It just seems like each and every week when there's a Lions loss during the football season, we're talking about the same kind of shit. Mistakes, not getting ready, not performing to your capability. So people will ask, like, guys, why are you so negative? Why is your slant that way when you review a Lions game? Why is Jock screaming every week and saying, my Sunday's ruined? Why is it like that? Why can't you guys focus on some positives like a Tion Green or the fact that the Lions have a franchise quarterback in Matthew Stafford? Well, the reason why we're negative is when you reflect back on 2013 and 2014, the Lions hire a new coach and you say, oh, this is a stopgap. This is a guy that's known for making mistakes in game. And throughout the course of 3 years, I would say in terms of our podcast, we've gotten better. Better quality. We streamline it. We put out our product every single day. We've gotten better, and we continue to advance ourselves. Imagine if in 2018 we said, Adam, we're going back to the basement. You'd be like, what the fuck are you talking about? I'm not going back to your basement, dude. Forget that. Your kids are older. I'm not going to sit there and try and be quiet and deal with phone calls and laundry and the laundry going on. We're not going backwards. But on Sunday, the situation with Jim Caldwell and the mistakes got worse. What do we complain about? The 10 men on the field. They actually had the nerve to go backwards. They got nine
guys.
9 guys on the field.
How do you not know how to count?
How do you not get better? I would feel like if you're Jim Caldwell and you're known nationally as a shitty game manager, where's the drive for improvement? Where's the walk up to the podium and slam your paper down and go, yeah, you can come out here and admit that it's your fault. But where's the improvement? You expect your team to improve, and yet you come out and you tell us that you're having communication problems and it's your fault.
We did. It was a communication problem, so I got to get that fixed.
Get the fuck fixed! What's it take? It doesn't take that long to fix it. I mean, literally, okay, here's our packages. Here are the situations where we got to do X. I don't feel like at step one, where you need, certain packages in place, that it's that hard to get at least that basic tenet in place, get the proper amount of guys on the field. It's a big mistake. And now you got the writers in town. I mean, literally, it's not new to us. We've been calling for Caldwell to be fired after year 2. I mean, after a couple of those playoff performances, did anybody think that he was going to get better? I mean, they didn't show up for Seattle. They didn't show up for several games. This isn't news. So I think people are kind of coming through the fog of hope and kind of seeing the light. Maybe people are actually listening to us and ranting and raving, saying, look, this guy makes mistakes. This isn't new for us. So I know why you're mad and angry every Sunday. For me, I get mad talking about it, but on Sundays, when I watch this bullshit, I don't get mad. I just go, okay, I'm hoping this is going to end pretty soon. After the season, when maybe the epic failure happens, Bob Quinn nuts up and says, this isn't my guy. I'm going to go out and get Patricia. I'm going to go out and get my guy that can help this team take the next step. I can't be mad because our ceiling for Caldwell was stopgap. So how can I be really mad other than when I see 9 guys on the field ranting and raving going, what kind of bullshit is this?
Well, I do want to applaud you because you were the first guy I heard say he's a stopgap coach. So congratulations.
Yeah. Well, we tweeted it, and the good thing is on record. I pulled it up. I looked at it. I said, look, this is coach 2 of 3. The thing that would paralyze me with fear is that Bob Quinn is a puppet and doesn't have the capability of firing him. If that happens, oh my God, if next year we come on and the announcement's made that Jim Caldwell is the head coach, good Lord, this mic's going to be on fire because it's going to be a complete disaster.
Look, I'm not 100% sure why we're surprised. Jim Caldwell is the long lineage of Detroit Lions coaches that are better suited as a coordinator than they are a head coach. You're right. He's a horrible in-game manager. You realize that he has the ability to control who's on his staff and what they're doing. If I have the ability to do this, and I know that I am awful at being able to control a game, you know what I'm doing? I'm hiring a guy to sit there and be over my shoulder and say, hey, you need to call a timeout here. You only got 9 guys on the field. Hey, you need to throw a flag here because that that was totally a botched play. You need to have somebody in a position to be able to help you out because you obviously can't get the job done. Jim Caldwell, in the last 2 weeks, has cost this team at least 14 points in a game. If you go back to Thanksgiving, there was the Darren Fells touchdown that was later ruled a non-touchdown. You have over 25 to 30 seconds before they buzz down and go back to review that play. And you should have somebody in the booth in your ear. Get the extra point unit out. Get the extra point unit out. Get them out. And you need to kick that within 10 seconds. That way they can't go back and review it. And now you've got 7 on the board. Instead, you had to settle for 3. And when you put 7 on the board at that time, it's a much closer game, and the whole dynamic of the game could change. In this game, you got Jeremy Maclin coming across the middle, catches the football, takes 2 steps, then gets popped. Quandre Diggs, I believe it was, picks it up, scoops, and he's on his way to score. They end up blowing the play dead. It should be your ball. That should have been a touchdown, but that should at least be your ball in their zone. What are you doing? Like, you have one job, man, and that's to manage this team and make sure these guys are ready to play, and you can't even do that. The Detroit Lions didn't show up for the first half, spotted the Ravens 20 points. How do you come back from that? How? There's no way in hell you're going to come back from that. Not unless the Ravens slip and fall on a banana peel. Unbelievable. Week after week after week, it's the same thing. Then you go to your press conference and you're like, oh, well, I got to get better. Hey, no shit, Sherlock. Like,
that's wrong. Should never happen. That's my fault. Plain and simple.
No kidding, guy.
My fault. Plain and simple.
Can't be your fault after 3 years.
You know what?
3-4
Here's
years.
the thing. You know what? I'm so tired of his press conferences because I sat there tonight and I watched that afterwards. I'm so tired of his arrogance and his smugness. Like, you're not a good football coach. You're not. You're absolutely horrible at your job. You happen to have a really good quarterback, right? Matt Stafford, I believe, is a very good quarterback. All right, and you've got some assistants who, I don't know, sometimes are good at their jobs. They tend to sometimes be decent. I think Terrell Austin could be a really good defensive coordinator, possibly a really good head coach. I'm not sure. Jim Bob Cooter's got to work through some things because his offense has taken a dramatic step backwards. It just, this whole team, man. You know, I was watching that game. I was watching it with my dad and my uncle, and I was furious. I was so pissed, right? I was mad because I might have lost in fantasy football. I didn't. I ended up winning. But I was mad about that, and I was mad about the way the Lions were playing. And when going into halftime, I looked at my uncle, and I was like, Jesus Christ, man. I am sick and tired of this. 34 years. 34 years I've been dealing with this crap. And my uncle looked at me, he's like, only 34? Like, you only been dealing with it for 34 years? He's like, what about us?
Stop it.
And I was like, that's it right there. I understand, right? I understand. Like, I get why my dad doesn't enjoy watching Lions games. And I get why when I get free tickets to go to the Lions, he doesn't want to go.
Well, you know what put me in a good mood? Prior to the 1 o'clock game?
Masturbating?
No. I thought, seriously, I was going to wake up early and go to the Silverdome to watch the implosion, okay? I'm like, I'm going. I want to see a building get destroyed. Where else can you go and be really close? Because I knew the lay of the land. I knew the parking lot would be really close. I'd have an opportunity to periscope it. But I got a chance to watch the UFC on my computer free. It was amazing. It was the first time I got to pirate a UFC material. It was so awesome. I watched it from 10 to 12:30. I was super hyped.
How'd you get it for free?
I was just sitting, you know, the plan was...
Do you want to talk about it?
Yeah, real quick. The plan was for me to go watch the UFC at a bar, but inevitably the wife wanted to go out. She got invited by her friend, and I'm a good guy. I'm like, go ahead, go have fun. It's not a big deal. I can kind of follow it. All of a sudden, I'm just kind of doing some stuff for the podcast, and it popped up. A guy's stream. I just typed in hashtag UFC, and a guy's like, boom, I got it. I'm like, what the hell? This is UFC free. I've never done this. I've seen it before. I'm like, I'm gonna hope and pray I get a chance to watch, maybe even a fight.
Was it on YouTube?
Periscope. The dude,
okay.
no, I think what the dude did so it didn't get cut off was I think he actually bought it and then just streamed it somehow through. He jerry rigged it through his computer and it just aired. And he was cool too. He was typing. He was saying, "Sorry, it's lagging a little bit," but it was just lagging like maybe 3 seconds behind the commentator versus the action. But I watched the entire UFC Detroit card. Huge knockouts. I mean, literally the heavyweight fight delivered. It's probably one of the most brutal knockouts you're ever going to see. Alistair Overeem, almost, I thought he was dead. He got knocked out by this massive, I think, French dude, or this dude looks. If I saw this dude walk in, I'd crap my pants. It was so awesome. But I was just tired. I stayed up till 2 o'clock because I watched the post stuff. I'm like, forget. I just thought like I want to go, but I just can't. I got up boom. My body woke up 8 o'clock. I tuned in. I'm like, okay, here we go. And I tuned into Fox 2. It happened, and the Silverdome did not go down.
No, it did not.
And that was so hilarious. It started my mood off great because all the jokes nationally, people talking about failures. This is so epic with the Lions. So people said, look, don't worry, the implosion is going to happen at 1. So going into it, people were kind of setting themselves up going, oh my goodness, Baltimore can't score on offense. They're not playing all that great. They're a similar team to you. They got Joe Flacco. You can do some things. They got Marty Morningweg. But dude, even Morningweg knows. That's what's most offensive is even fucking Marty Morningweg knows, dude, they can't stop the tight end. Let's just, when we're in the red zone, we can do a play action to the tight end. The tight end will just be bloop, wide open. And even Marty Morningweg in his infinite wisdom figured that out. So you haven't fixed that yet. That's been a problem now over 2 or 3 seasons. The big thing that people are upset about, most people don't have hope in Jim Caldwell. They know that he's not a coach that's going to get you to the Super Bowl and win it all. The problem is when you keep coming in and talking to us week after week and you say, yeah, we got to button it up. Yeah, we got to button it up. You haven't figured out.
Button it up already. Just do it.
What are you telling Terrell Austin about this defense? Why can't they figure out how to cover a tight end in the red zone? I mean,
dude, why can't they stop a running back?
Why can't they stop a running back?
It makes no sense. Like, This
fix the
defense,
problems when you tell us you're going to fix it.
This defense is so porous. I understand Haloti Ngata goes down, and that maybe affects your run game, your ability to stop the run. I get it. I understand that. But Jesus Christ, man, Haloti Ngata went down in week 5. You know what I'm saying?
You got to figure it out.
Yeah.
You come out and say there's no excuses.
This is week 14. You haven't been able to put anybody in to get this figured out? What are we doing here? On
the Stafford play where he gets blown up, people are talking about he misread the blitz. He didn't pick it up. He failed to see what was going on. He had an opportunity to throw a wide open Golden Tate. Do you put that on him, or do you say, you know what, this offensive line is just collapsing. It isn't doing what it's supposed to do. Bob Quinn put some resources in TJ Lang. Got a shell of himself. He's out there on one leg. You got Rick Wagner, who you blew buku bucks from Baltimore, but you have to always give the notice of if Baltimore didn't make an effort to pick up this offensive lineman, why do you think he's going to come to Detroit and just be stellar? Because you would think common sense, if you just think about it via common sense, offensive linemen are coveted. And if you make a massive offer, do you think that Baltimore would have maybe tried to match it or tried to do whatever they could to keep an offensive lineman? They're like, oh, sure, you want to go to Detroit? Go fuck up your career over there trying to cover for Matthew Stafford. And Rick Wagner in and out of the ball game. It just hasn't been the guy that we thought. When we looked at this offensive line, it's been a huge disappointment, and that goes up to Bob Quinn. But Stafford on that play, I felt like made a big, huge mistake. I felt like he misread the blitz, and you can't fumble the ball to the opponent. You just can't.
Yeah, I understand. But do you remember when David Carr was a quarterback? Do you remember how his
running for his life? Yeah, ran for his life.
Like the guy was shell shocked, right? Coming out of college, he was a pretty decent quarterback. His first year in the NFL, the guy was hit all the time. And then after that, I don't think he ever fully recovered mentally. I think Matt Stafford at this point,
damaged goods because he's scared running for his life.
He's going down that same path where every time he turns around, the guy's getting popped.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? He's been hit more than any quarterback in the NFL right now.
Ugh.
I'm not sure what you want from the guy. He has proven when he has time and he has a little bit of space, he can make a play. At this point, that pocket collapses so fast, or guys are up on him so quickly, he's basically hiking the ball, and he's trying to sit there and move the ball from in front of his body to his right side so he can get ready to throw, and he's already getting crushed.
What did we say last year? I mean, we were joking last year that I think one of my bold predictions was in 2016 that Stafford was going to blow out his ACL at some point or have a major injury because of all the pops that he's taking. He's taken a lot of licks. He's had a leg injury, a leg situation. Now his hand is so basically we're all nervous because
he is
maybe
damaged goods.
That final blow might be coming where he's going to be hurt.
What did you think when you seen him get hit and then he gets up and he goes to the sideline and you can just see him messing with his hand and the trainers are looking at it?
I was scared.
Next thing you know, he goes to the locker room. The first thing I said was, he's done. I was like, our season's done. He's done. We don't have a quarterback. Like, as much as I like Jake Rudock and I like what he did when he was at Michigan, there's no way Jake Rudock can come in and do what Matt Stafford does. They're not even on the same level. They're not even in the same atmosphere. Okay,
yeah, it looks like Jake Rudock learned pretty well. Learned how to throw pick sixes at Michigan pretty well.
Exactly.
Came right in and executed what he knows.
You're such a dick.
Well, I was kind of a little bit. 2 seconds of my thought was like, okay, Stafford's out. Maybe Rudock can just fling the ball all over the place, but not against Baltimore. I was like, oh, the chance was there. Here's the game. 4 games left, but
the same exact thing, though, right? He goes back to throw the ball. Next thing you know, he's getting crushed.
There's no miracles
The
in
offensive
Detroit.
line, I don't understand why this offensive line is so bad. At this point, looking at the pieces you have, right? Taylor Decker's a pretty good offensive lineman, yes or no?
Hurt.
Travis Swanson, pretty good offensive lineman. Graham Glasgow, pretty good offensive line. Now, none of these guys right here are world beaters.
Right, but
together, they should be pretty decent. And I understand that they're hurt, but do you think maybe some of it has to do with the scheme that they're running?
Exactly.
Maybe Jim Bob Cooter's got to take a step back and readjust some things?
But also, too, there are other coaches that run the offense. The offensive line coach we can now probably start to say he's inept because you got other guys like Adrian Waddle, you got Riley Reif. They go to other situations and they look like Pro Bowlers. So you say to yourself, our offensive line looks like they've regressed. The offense doesn't look like it's doing what it's supposed to. That would indicate that maybe some of the coaching, the schemes, the offensive coordinator are not doing what we thought they would do. And under Jim Caldwell, I do think he has to take ownership of the fact that I think he's taking good coaches and they're regressed. I do believe that whatever's going on with Jim Bob Cooter, within 2 games, you say to yourself, Jim, what's going on with your running scheme? I mean, we have not had a 100-yard rusher in over 4 years. I'm sitting in a meeting going, if you don't produce one in the 2016 season, your fucking ass is fired. Yeah. So if you can't produce a 100-yard rush, we're not talking about multiple games here. One, what's the goal? Oh, let's just be a passing team. Let's just try and get by. No, your goal, Mr. Cooter, is to ... That's where Jim Caldwell comes in and has to lay the hammer on his coaches saying, look, if you can't produce a 100-yard rusher, I can't win. So either you do the job or you get out of here. And that's why the majority of fans are upset because we feel like the team has taken over the coaches, the players. They've taken on the personality of a coach that's laid back and doesn't seem to have the ability to get things done when he sees it. He can talk the big game. Great. If you want to have a talking world championship, Jim Caldwell's your guy. He can tell you, I need to do this, I need to do Y. But when you start to look at the film and ask yourself, can he go and find pieces to execute it? The answer is no, and so that's why it's super frustrating. And the problem is going to get worse because if you can't protect your quarterback, if you don't have a running game, that puts a lot of pressure on Stafford. His ass is getting mauled, and we don't want to see him getting knocked out. I mean, the guy's a warrior, but you keep allowing him to get hit, like Golden Tate said. One of these days, he's not going to get back up, and you're going to have a huge problem.
Who do you put more of the issues with this team on? Do you put it more on Jim Caldwell and his inability to coach?
Everybody, yeah.
Or do you put it more on a guy like Bob Quinn and his inability to sit there and address the needs of this team? I mean, that's
the recipe for a bad season.
Right. If you look at this team, right, we thought going into it that the offensive line was shored up. We thought for sure the next 3 years we're going to have a really good offensive line. And now we're headed into, year 3 of Bob Quinn, and we're like, you know what? We need to fix that offensive line. We thought, hey, we had a really good defensive line. And now we're going into year 3, and we're like, you know what? We need to address that defensive line. At some point, they've got to add a running back because the draft pick of Amir Abdullah, it's not working out. He is not good. He is, if anything, he's a third down back. He's a guy who maybe can catch a ball out of the backfield sometimes, and hopefully he holds on to it. He's got baby hands. He can't hold on to a damn football.
So the way I have to conceptualize it is this. Bob Quinn still has the benefit of the doubt that he's got street cred, that because of the fact that he came from New England, that he's seen what good coaching looks like. I have to put it on the fact that I think Jared Davis would be farther along with a different defensive coordinator. I feel like Kenny Galladay could have had a bigger season with a different offense and different schemes and things like that. I believe that right now, year 2, I believe that a lot of the blame has to be shifted more on Jim Caldwell and that coaching staff, and I feel like other coaches could have gotten more out of the same guys this year. But if this continues and the year 2 draft class with maybe a different coaching regime still looks this kind of lost, I mean, Tease Tabor, Jared Davis, Roberts, they haven't produced as much, but you have to, when you start to ask, where do I pinpoint this, you have to, at this point in time, say, with other coaches, with a different regime, these same players probably would do more. And that's why there's still a lot of hope that if Amir Abdullah leaves, he could be productive somewhere else. If these guys go somewhere else, I truly believe if Kenny Galladay was on the New England Patriots, he'd be a Pro Bowler. He'd have touchdowns.
But
Tom Brady would find him.
You got to remember, though, Kenny Galladay has missed like 5, 6, 7, 8 games. He's missed half the season because of a hamstring injury. I understand what you're saying. Like, the guy's a huge red zone target.
More of the blame goes to Caldwell and that coaching staff.
And every time he catches the ball, he picks up huge chunk yards. But he's got to be healthy. You got to be on the field. Okay, so all that being said, right? You're blaming the most of the issues of this team on Jim Caldwell.
More of the issues, yes.
Would you trade a draft pick for the next 2 years of John Harbaugh? Now, you got to remember, John Harbaugh was on the hot seat over in Baltimore for a little bit. There were some talks that he might be let go. He's got about 2 years left on his contract. If you ask me,
yes.
I think John Harbaugh's a damn good coach.
He's won a Super Bowl, been to a Super Bowl. Why not?
I think this would be a perfect landing spot for the guy, too. You got his brother right up the street in Ann Arbor. You got basically the families reuniting, and there's a little bit of a reunion there. I think this would be a perfect spot. On top of that, he's got a general manager who I feel he could work hand in hand with, a guy who would be willing to listen to him. Because you got to remember, John Harbaugh has won a championship. You know what I'm saying? He's been there. He's done that. He knows what he needs. He's a guy who understands everything. I feel like it would make so much sense. If I'm Bob Quinn, I'm getting on the phone, right? I'm calling Baltimore, and I'm saying, what do you want? I want John Harbaugh. I will trade you. I'm basically doing the move that Tampa Bay did with Oakland, and I'm giving you whatever it is that you want. I'll go as high as a second-round draft pick.
But the talk is that if Quinn does make a move, he's going to go over to the New England side and just pick who he trusts. Because if you get one chance and you're going to ask yourself, who do I pin my career on? John Harbaugh is a proven commodity. Would he want to come here? Possibly, yes. It would set up nicely for him, but you would go with who you know. And I feel like Bob Quinn,
if I had one chance, I would go with the guy who's been there, done that. I would go with John Harbaugh.
That's what logic would say, but when do the Lions do things logically?
Look, Matt Patricia, his defense looks a lot better now than it did a lot earlier in the season, and I totally don't want, what's the name of the offensive coordinator?
McDaniels?
Yes, I don't want Josh McDaniels at all.
Okay.
Like I've seen what he can do in Denver. I want none of it. I don't want to touch that with anything.
Now, before we take our first time out, there is still a little glimmer of hope that the Lions could go 3-1, 4-0 in these next 4 games. Because of the fact, when you look at the schedule, the teams that they're facing aren't exactly world beaters.
I told you what's going to happen. I told you what's going to happen.
Last game?
I told you what's going to happen. Just talk. Aaron Rodgers is coming back game was
early
week 15.
Yeah.
So Aaron Rodgers is going to be ready to go. Aaron Rodgers is going to put the nail in your coffin that's going to seal your fate. I told you, just sit and wait and watch for it. Wait for it. Look, there is nothing. This team is done. This team is done. You know what I'm hoping for? I hope they roll into Tampa Bay this week, and I hope Tampa Bay houses them. Just put me out of my misery. Just end it for me, because I don't need to care about this anymore.
Yes.
I still get invested because there's still the glimmer of hope that this team can go and make it to the playoffs.
Typical Lions lore.
Dude, if they can lose this week, I'll be ecstatic. Do you know why? Because then it's legitimate. They're done.
Lions lore, they destroy the next 3 opponents. They get to Green Bay at home.
Aaron
all the marbles.
Rodgers crushes them.
Exactly. But the realistic scenario is they play decent the next 2 games. They win them. They get to 8-6. And then they go to Cincinnati. They play Marvin Lewis and a team like Cincinnati, and with A.J. Green, some pieces, and I think the season ends that day in Cincinnati. I do believe that it won't have to get to Green Bay, that they'll struggle significantly versus a team like Cincinnati. When you look at the head-to-head matchups, Marvin Lewis and the Cincinnati Bengals have had their way with the Detroit Lions, and they got a solid team. They might be still, fighting for things, but we'll see how that plays out. But it would suck so bad if the hope is renewed at 9-6, and you got to play Green Bay with Aaron Rodgers to do it again. At the same time, I don't feel bad anymore rooting for the Lions to lose the rest of the games, because that will guarantee that Caldwell doesn't come back. Because if you want to look long-term for the best interest of the Lions, it sucks to say it, but you have to root against them. You just have to, because if you got Caldwell for the next 2 years, you're going to be looking at the same thing, the same nonsensical press conferences.
It's like Groundhog's Day. Just wake up and repeat. Rinse, repeat, rinse, repeat, rinse, repeat. It's like using a condom over and over and over. Why would you do it? Why would you do it? But that's what it's like. It's like using a used condom over and over.
I do believe, though, this Sunday they can get the victory. I mean, Jameis Winston can turn the ball over. You can be opportunistic. I do believe that the Lions will recover. And I think they play really well in a nice weather situation. I think they play well and get the win.
You got to remember, though, Matt Stafford's still dealing with a hand injury, and it sounds like it's bad. It's not broken, but it sounds like it's bad. On top of that, you haven't been able to stop anybody on defense. You know what I'm saying?
Man.
And then if you look at your offensive line, it is banged up. TJ Lang was talking the other day and basically said, hey, we're all beat up. Everybody's beat up.
We hurt.
We are all beat up.
We hurting over here.
So, look, too many injuries, man. You got your quarterback. His hand is basically mangled. You got a running game that's non-existent. You got a defensive line that can't stop a running game to save their lives. You've got a rookie linebacker who looks lost right now. You know what I'm saying? And
it's hard to be positive.
It's just it's a bad situation. I think they go and I think they lose. I think Tampa Bay ends up beating them.
Oh, Talk about heated. Oh, my goodness. The seat under Jim Caldwell right now is super hot. Imagine a loss to Tampa Bay. Oh, my goodness.
Tampa Bay's not a good team.
No.
They're not a good team right now.
Let's take our first time out. We'll come back. We'll talk some college football, a lot of news and notes, a lot of things to chomp into. The top 4 was announced. The bowl selections happened. And Jim Harbaugh and Mark Dantonio battling on Twitter.
Chirping, bro. Chirping.
Can't wait to get to it right after this. Doc and Jock here for our host site, Podomatic. When we first started this project, we were looking for a place to host all of our recorded audio. And at this point, we've recorded 700 to 800 weekly podcasts. How were we able to grow a network? We were lucky to find a great host site. And what does Podomatic.com provide for us? We're able to generate links super quick so that all of our supporters in the United States and even overseas can listen to our fine broadcast. Like when we reach out to the daughter of Igor Larionov and we say, hey, come on in, let's have a chat. Let's see what it's like being a Detroiter and what are you into? She's like, sure, of course, I want to come check it out, because I'm sure she listened to previous podcasts and said, wow, your guys' setup is pretty good. I can hear you. I can hear Adam and John rant and rave pretty crisply. So if you're starting a brand new project and you want to grow a network, you want to be able to record audio and have people actually like it and listen to it and come back and rate you and critique you, then Doc and Jock, Vito, Jason, all the hosts on the network, we're going to recommend one host site, Podomatic.com. Yes, sir, cuz college football is kind of rounding into shape. We kind of know where things are going. The bowl selection has happened. We know who's in the playoff. I want to ask you this. Do you take the notion that a lot of people who follow us on Twitter at Detroit Podcast say, they go, look, if you're not in the playoffs, then who gives a shit? Is that where you've gotten to at this point? Because I still have interest in what Michigan does in a bowl game. I'll still watch. I have interest in what Michigan State's doing in a bowl game. Now, because of the setup with the playoff, I don't take the situation where I go, well, I don't take it that seriously, because you got a lot of seniors now that are saying, look, I'm going to skip these bowls. I'm not even going to go and try. You've had situations where these bowl games, I know where people say, look, it can be meaningless, but I still have interest. Where do you shake up with this? Is it playoff or bust, or you have interest in a couple of these, big-time bowls? I
think a lot of what it is, like, I still have interest in what Michigan does, and I have interest in what Michigan State does. I used to be more interested when you had big bowl games. Like, you had the Orange Bowl, you had the Citrus Bowl, you had the Rose Bowl. Like, no matter who was playing in the Rose Bowl, I always wanted to watch it, or I kept peeking in on it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I remember that Texas USC game. Like, that was bananas, right? So I would always keep track of those games. Now, at this point with the playoff, I'm going to watch the first round, going to watch the second round, and I don't watch real intently just because...
Passively in the background, just kind of paying attention.
It's just, like, my teams aren't there, so I care, but I don't care. Do you know what I'm saying? Does that make sense? Like, yep. I'm not so invested in it. I will watch when Michigan plays their bowl game, and I'll pay attention when Michigan State plays their bowl game. I don't know. I feel like the college football playoff, up until the national championship game, it kind of... There's a little bit of shine that's been taken off. A little bit of that luster is gone.
Should they expand it to 8? I love it, because when people say you need to expand this out, maybe like a Jim Harbaugh trying to find an easy way to get into the playoff and find some success in any way that he can. Jim Harbaugh's probably like, can we have a 32 team or 64 team? Or
it's going to need to at least be 64.
Yeah, can we have everybody involved that's in Division 1 to try and get some success? Listen, damn it.
128 team playoff. Is that what the regular season's for? Shut up.
I say that when you look at the top 4, I like it. It renders a lot of games in the regular season super important in terms of, divisional games, in terms of conference title games. It makes it important, and I do believe they've gotten it right more often than not. I mean, there are teams that can chirp and say, yeah, we deserve to be there. But I would say if you expand it, just expand it to 5 and give the top seed a pass. A bye. That's all I would do, is get 5, and that way you can maybe make some standards where you can look at it and say you could have a lot of the conference championships, or you could say I want to have maybe that one additional team that can get in there. And I think this year it might be Ohio State, or it might be another one of those teams. So I would say if you want to expand it to 5. But I like it the way that it is, and I like the 4 teams. I feel like Alabama was the better team. They statistically look a lot better than Ohio State in a lot of categories. And when you look at the loss column, there's a 1 there, and in Ohio State, there's a 2. And Ohio State benefited from the same situation that Alabama did this year, where last year Ohio State did not win their conference title, and they were chosen to be part of the college football playoff. But unfortunately, when they went, they got their ass destroyed. So why would the committee select Clemson to play Ohio State again when everyone knows they'll probably get their ass kicked yet again?
Well, because I think what you end up doing there is you totally disregard the championship games. And I think the championship game, I think the championship game should be important here. At some point, I feel like the committee's got to come out and lay down a set of rules. Me, myself, I'd like to see them expanded to 16 teams.
I like this set of rules.
I would like to see them expanded to 16 teams.
Oh,
okay?
God.
And the reason I say that is I feel like everybody who wins their conference or their division or what, not their division, but wins their conference should get an automatic bye. Mm-hmm. And then what you do is now you can sit there and you can fill out the next 4 or 5 best teams.
You have some matchups. I understand.
And that
but
way
then
you can sit
if
there
you do that,
fill out
you remove
the
bowl system. I disagree with that completely. I feel like in each of the selections,
I feel like the bowl system's just there for the people who work for the bowl committees that make money.
It's money and trips and stuff like that, and it's for the ability to practice.
But you go what? You have 16 games, you'd have 8 really good games, then you would have 4 really good games, and then you would have
a lot of games,
2 really good. So
now you're talking about 16 games in a season?
12,
that's too much.
8, 12, 16. You'd have 17 really good games that you could sit there and you could build around, and you could sit there and get all your money that you need to tie up with it right there.
I like the 4.
And if you're not one of the top 16 teams, or you don't win your conference, you don't get to play.
In essence, you basically have to go through the season and lose one game, and you got to play really well. So it makes, if you want to have a playoff, each game that you play in the regular season is a playoff.
So what's the point of having your conference championship then? What's the point?
The big theory is I want the 4 best teams, and
I understand.
And
that.
one of the teams doesn't have to be a conference championship, because let's say Wisconsin would have beaten Ohio State. Do you think they would have selected them? Probably not, because they didn't play nobody other than Ohio State. I feel like
Wisconsin at that time would have been undefeated.
Would you have had undefeated Wisconsin?
You would have had an undefeated team.
They would have got rolled.
I don't understand how you could justify having not having an undefeated team like Wisconsin in there. It doesn't make sense to me how you could justify that.
Yeah, you justify by saying that Wisconsin played nobody.
By saying
other than Ohio State. They won their division.
Nobody beat them.
Mm-hmm.
They sat there. They won their bowl game, or they won their championship game.
They would have been in there, but I wouldn't have selected
Nobody
them.
beat them.
I would have, if I was in the community, I would have still selected Alabama, because Clemson would probably destroy Wisconsin, and that's why in terms of setting up the playoff, you also have to take into account reality, which is it's a television event. You want the most eyes possible, and I don't think you get the most eyes with Clemson, Wisconsin. You're definitely going to get a lot of eyes, Clemson, Alabama.
Okay, let's take Wisconsin out. It'd be, we'll say Clemson, Ohio State, okay? You'd get a ton of eyes for that game. You'd get a ton of eyes for it, and you could build it up as a rivalry to what happened last week or last year when Ohio State was embarrassed.
I think it would happen again. I'm totally interested more in what they've done now. I'm pretty happy. I'm definitely 100% satisfied.
Okay.
I like the system as is now.
Okay. Let's look at Alabama's schedule here. They played Fresno State. Okay, who? Right? Whatever. All right, Colorado State. All right, they end up going on to play Mercer before they take on Auburn. I mean, you got 2 cream puffs right there.
Are you discounting Florida State, where they destroyed their season by knocking out their quarterback?
No, I didn't discount Florida State.
That's a great win.
But Florida State was not a very good team.
And they played Auburn super tough on the road in a supremely heated rivalry game. They played amazing.
And they got housed.
But they
26-14.
Still, when you look at across the board, when you look at Alabama's offensive ranking, defensive rankings.
Then look at what Auburn did when they played Georgia. Do you know what I'm saying? Georgia pushed Auburn shit in. You go to Wisconsin, I don't know. I mean, Wisconsin, yeah, you're right. Wisconsin didn't play anybody, but they were undefeated up until that Ohio State game.
It's still super tough, but it'll be interesting to see how this progresses. I do think there is a little bit of a groundswell for the 8-game situation, so we'll see how it plays out. But
at some point, they're going to expand it. I think you have to expand it.
All right.
And look, I would agree with you. I think Alabama is a very good team. Okay. At some point, though, Alabama's not going to deserve to be there. And you know what? I don't know if this year's the year where they don't deserve to be there. There's certainly a case that could be made for them not deserving to be there. I think at some point you have to win your conference championship in order to get to play in the playoffs. If you don't win that, you're totally devaluing that. There's no reason for it. Like, let's just say, right, by happen chance, this is what pissed me off about last year. Penn State got overlooked. Penn State goes on to win the Big Ten championship, and Ohio State goes. And next thing you know, Ohio State gets rolled. What? You know, let me put it to you like this. There could be a point in time, and you tell me how much this would chap your ass. There could be a point in time where Michigan State has one loss. It's to Michigan. Michigan has, I don't know, we'll say Michigan has 2 losses. They ended up losing to, I don't know, they ended up losing to a really good Wisconsin team that Michigan State's going to play in the Big Ten championship, and they lost to some other school, whatever. Anyway, Michigan State's playing in the Big Ten championship against Wisconsin. They beat the shit out of Wisconsin, and Michigan goes instead of MSU. Why? Because it's all about money? It's all about because Michigan's perceived to be the best team? You just won the Big Ten championship. You took care of the business you had to take care of. You played your way into the championship and you won. You should be able to go. Not some other team who got to sit home on a Saturday night. At some point, you've got to honor the championship game. It's the only way it makes sense to me.
Okay, so what do you make about this hubbub regarding Michigan and Michigan State and their bowl selections? Because I'm going to keep it simple. Yes, it is a little bit of a kick in the nuts that Michigan got to go to a better bowl game, okay? But when you look at what the scenario is that resulted in the vote, I can understand it. When you look at money, when you look at ratings, when you look at what you can present, I understand that the decision was correct to pick Michigan. I understand that completely. Do I like it? No, because most people do rate the Outback Bowl as a little bit more prestigious. January 1st, more eyes will be on that game than Michigan State playing on a Thursday night on FS1. So in terms of exposure, I feel like Michigan State did get the raw end of the deal, but I understand it completely. Do I like it? No, but I understand it. Michigan is a brand, like we've talked about. I would like Michigan State to be a brand and to be recognized for what's going on, but at the same time, I don't have to sit here and like it. I do wish that Michigan State could have been in a situation where they were rewarded for having a better year than Michigan.
Now, I could understand why it happened, and I totally get that. At the same point, I think it's highly disrespectful. At no point should Michigan State be demoted or placed in a lower bowl game than Michigan. Remember, Michigan State beat Michigan. Michigan State has a better record than Michigan. Michigan State took care of most of the business that was laid out in front of them. Michigan, on the other hand, did not. So Michigan going to the Outback Bowl to play on New Year's Day, while Michigan State gets to go play in the Holiday Bowl on the 28th, I think is totally disrespectful. And let me tell you how I found out about this news. I was sitting there on the couch, I looked over at my phone, and it said Michigan State's playing in the Holiday Bowl. And I was like, wow, that's really weird. I was like, I don't understand why they would play there. I was like, if they're playing on the 28th and they're playing in the Holiday Bowl, what kind of garbage bowl is Michigan going to play in? They got to probably be playing like the Poinsettia Bowl or something on the 26th, right? Or the New Year, Goodyear Tire Bowl or whatever the hell it is, right? And then it comes out that they're playing in the Outback Bowl, and I was just flabbergasted. I said, wow. Like, out loud, I said, wow. How can they do that? And I get it. Michigan's a brand. Michigan State travels. Michigan State will show up. And Michigan State was the right selection to play in the Outback Bowl, not Michigan. Mind you, a couple weeks ago, I was sitting there predicting that Michigan State was going to either play in the Orange Bowl or the Citrus Bowl. Shows how much I know. But at that time, I had expected Ohio State or Wisconsin to be in the playoffs. So whatever is there, you know what I'm saying? Jeez Louise, man. I think it's totally disrespectful to Michigan State. I think it's totally disrespectful to that fan base. As a Michigan fan, yeah, I'm happy to get to go play in the Outback Bowl. I feel it's totally undeserved, though. I feel like they backed into it and they got lucky. It's just, hey, cool, you got yellow weird stripes on your helmet and you sell T-shirts. Cool. That's why they're there.
In the coming weeks, we'll look at the matchups, Michigan State. I think it's a fair discussion to have. I do like the banter, and I like the fact that we have this rivalry because Michigan fans will poke a little bit and say, oh, look at us. We had a worse season. We get to go to the more prestigious bowl. And you got Michigan State having to answer like, congratulations, you got accepted to a bowl. How do you feel about not being accepted to the bigger bowl? And then Dantonio, kind of similarly to what, Spartan Nation likes to hear, he kind of said, look, I'm just going to keep focusing on defeating Michigan. We've done pretty good in that, and the Paul Bunyan Trophy likes to live in East Lansing. For the better part of a decade, it's resided in East Lansing for about 8 years, so it's pretty good. It's all good in that department, but at the same time, when I see Jim Harbaugh go on Twitter and respond to it, it just tells me that State's in his head, and he has to play to the base. He has to because all the press has been negative about Jim Harbaugh, he has to play to his base, and this is the way he does it. And I do like...
That's funny, because the one who started all this was Dantonio. So who's in whose head here?
He was asked a question.
Who's in whose head?
He was asked a question,
yeah,
and
but
he
you
said
didn't have to answer it like that.
I love the way he answered it.
Okay, cool. But who's in whose head here?
I think
Who's in whose head?
Yeah, Jim Harbaugh.
Come on.
Dude, when you answer like this,
Come on.
I like now what's going on and you've seen what's happened.
You're right. Jim Harbaugh comes out and he takes a massive swipe at MSU.
No, I think what's happened is you've said it yourself.
It is a massive swipe. Read it. I'll read it to you. He said, saw Coach D's comments on continuing to focus on how he can beat Michigan. Congrats on turning around a 3-9 team plagued with off-field issues. Good for B1G to have him back. So, look, massive swipe there. It was such a backhanded compliment. It was ridiculous. And when I seen all this going on, I was disgusted. I was like, this is two gigantic children playing in the same sandbox, and they're just kicking dirt at each other. This is ridiculous. But go ahead, continue, Thug.
I'm happy that Michigan fans are being critical of Jim Harbaugh, saying this is beneath Michigan, this is petty, this is stupid, this is what we're reduced to. We're reduced to winning on Twitter and hyping up the fan base, because I like the fact that through our talks and through realistically exploring what's going on, the question is simple. This is all fodder for us to debate and have a good time with. But in the end, I hold up the scoreboard, and that's that. And so should the fans of Michigan. They should hold Jim Harbaugh, hold his feet to the fire and say, look, when's the scoreboard going to look good in our favor? I mean, you got Ohio State rolling Michigan in basketball, football. You got the trend now of Michigan having to search for outside help from recruits that you can't develop. I mean, you have to go out there and get, grad transfers and
let's talk about that real quick.
I understand he's got to do it.
There's up
Shea Patterson's talented.
There's up to like 7 guys from Ole Miss that want to come to Michigan. I have no idea how I feel about that.
I feel like the optics of it are fine. You want to improve your team, but
if
at
it
the
helps
same time,
the team, I guess I'm cool with it. But Jesus Christ, man! At some point, you've got to have your own guys here. Get the guys that you recruit and get those guys on the field. Stop taking everybody else's has-beens or never was, or guys who want out of programs because coaches leave. Like figure it out. I don't know, man. Look, I'm a different Michigan fan. I told you from the start. I love Michigan, but there are some times where I feel like their feet need to be held to the fire, and sometimes they need to be burned with a hot iron. And I just go around with a flamethrower, man, setting them on fire because I just don't understand how they operate sometimes.
Quick news and notes. Were you surprised Jimbo Fisher ended up at Texas A&M? They rolled out the red carpet for that dude.
I'm totally surprised. Why would you leave Florida State to go to Texas A&M? It's not like he went to school there. It's not like he has any type of weird relationship or tie with Texas A&M. I mean, dude, you were at Florida State where you won a national championship, and you have a pretty good quarterback coming back next year. I don't understand it. Again, we talked about this last week. Texas A&M isn't even the big school in Texas. You know what I'm saying? It's like the 3rd or 4th big school in Texas. It makes no sense. What did you make about Herm Edwards going to Arizona State?
Obviously, one of the things people say is, can he relate to the modern athlete? But, he's been on ESPN saying that, look, I can relate to people. I know how to coach football. Winning and attitude and being a people person, that translates. And I think it's a great move for Arizona State, because if you're looking for a path to the NFL, which a lot of these young athletes are, why not have a guy that was coaching in the NFL? Kind of a tie between the old school days and now, in that he's watched football as an analyst for ESPN. He knows how to communicate. And I feel like if that dude walked into my house, I don't know how I would say no to the man, because I feel like he'd have the passion. As a father, if I had a son and he told me, look, I'm going to mold your son into a man, I'd have to believe the man. I don't think he's going to sell me a bill of goods like other coaches, maybe like a Harbaugh, and guarantee me a quarterback spot and then give it to 2 other people if they're better. I don't believe in that. I think Herm Edwards might have integrity. He might have the ability to be honest and open with who he's working with. And I do believe that if he were able to walk into my home, that I would feel very comfortable sending my family member there, and that he's going to have a program that's full of integrity, and he's going to have that bridge to the old school where he's going to shape men into professional people and maybe even professional athletes as well. So I feel like in 2 or 3 years, he might have that program up and running and being a program that's in the conversation in the Pac-12 year in, year out, maybe similar to Stanford.
At some point, I hope Michigan State just F's up royally, because I'm just going to turn around and use it in on you in every argument I make.
What are you talking about? What did I say something wrong? Did I say something?
Just sit there. Look, I'm interested to see how it plays out. I really am. Because Herm Edwards is an older guy. He was a very good football player. He was a pretty good football coach. You got to remember, college is totally different than the pros. I mean, it's like a 360-day grind. Like, you get 5 days off. You are always out there, always recruiting. Everything you're doing is to sit there and make your program look better in the eyes of not just the university faculty, not just the university boosters, but future recruits, the current players you have. I mean, you've got to answer to a ton of people all the time. I don't know if Herm Edwards is going to have the energy or the ability to go out and be able to relate with, younger kids and be able to pull them in. And I mean, you got to go out and get pretty decent talent. You know what I'm saying? And I understand what you're saying about him being, a good motivational guy, a guy who you would sit down and you'd have no problem sending your son to go play for him. But you got to remember, this is your son's choice. Does your son want to go play for him? I don't know. I'm not sure how it's going to work out. It's going to be interesting to see, though, and to watch it unfold. And hopefully he doesn't get burned out early. Hopefully he can sit there and have a nice little tenure, maybe 5-10 years there. That'd be cool. Just to kind of see how it works out for him. And hopefully Arizona State becomes successful. It'd be cool to see what Arizona State's, the Sun Devils? Hopefully it'd be cool to see the Sun Devils do something.
All right, one final timeout. We'll come back with a round of the doctors in session. Jock's got some things he's got to get off his chest. Hopefully I am able to deliver. Stay with us. You're listening to Doc and Jock on the Detroit Sports Podcast Network. Thank you, everybody, for your continued support. We love having an opportunity to check the stats and to see the downloads and to see, the subscribers on iTunes. And every single week we get a chance to kind of see the trends. And by the looks of things, everybody's continuing to support us, and we greatly appreciate it. 2017 was an amazing year for the network, and we're looking forward to bigger and better things in 2018. The free and easy way to support us, go check out our website, DetroitSportsPodcast.com. You can see what show airs when. You can follow along and meet the personalities who are behind some of these podcasts. You can go take care of all your online shopping needs, buy tickets to any sporting events. Just click through those banner links and show support to those who support us by clicking through the supporter and sponsor tabs. We greatly appreciate those who support us. We've had the opportunity to have some long-term relationships with our sponsors, and that's because of your fine support. You can follow Adam on Twitter at AdamRSTROZ. Follow the network at Detroit Podcast, the most interactive Detroit sports Twitter page during each and every Detroit sports contest. We definitely enjoy the banter, and thanks to your support, it makes it a fun time to be a Detroit sports fan here in town. Thank you for your continued support. We greatly appreciate it. The phenomenal DOC is here and ready to deliver, cuz always enjoy the opportunity to see what you got lined up for me and what we call the Doctor is in Session.
But to be the man, you gotta beat the man, and I'm saying, woo, right here, I'm the man, woo!
All right, so let's start with your Detroit Pistons, seeing how you are the Pistons insider. This is something I was worried about. They're having one of those little spells where they're going through a little bit of a clunker right now. So
this is bad.
It is, Adam. It's very bad. How do you see the Pistons coming out of this stretch of games, ending with Boston at home on Sunday afternoon? Mind you, they dropped 2 games over the weekend that they probably should have won and lost a nail-biter to the Spurs. Now, that's 3 games that they've dropped. And by the time December 10th rolls around, they will have played a total of 6 games, including a game against Boston, like I had mentioned, and Golden State. So how do they come out of this stretch of 6 games?
Okay, so let me first and foremost update you on what happened last week. So I was able to get a free ticket to the Pistons versus Suns.
Right.
I was not part of the media crew. They gave me a regular ticket in the lower bowl, so I was super comfortable. I was very comfortable because to my left, there was nobody sitting next to me for 15 rows. Right about the 7-minute mark of the first quarter, the 3 guests to my right came and sat down. So I had all the ample leg room, got a chance to watch the Pistons put an ass kicking on a team. I stayed for 3 quarters and got home to kiss the babies, and so it was very enjoyable. They were very kind. They gave me a media pass in terms of parking. I got to park real close, right up there, got into the stadium, handled my business. So what I did was I kind of was in and out of watching the game because it was a clunker. I mean, the Suns were terrible. They were turning the ball over so much, and the Pistons put an ass kicking on them. So it's nice to see, but I kind of just toured some more things and did some more talks with the fans, and a lot of people were still, riveted by the attendance and what's going on around there. There are pockets of empty seats. The price for the ticket that I got for free, a little bit high for the 17th row. I can understand a little bit why people are hesitant. You're not going to walk out of there for a family of 4 without paying about $250. It's impossible. If you want to sit in the lower bowl, be comfortable, you're going to pay about $50 a ticket. So 4 tickets, parking. If you want to park relatively close, it's $30. You want to feed your family, it's a little bit too pricey, but you are getting what you're paying for. It's nice. It's fun. I'm comfortable. I feel open space. I'm not like nobody's on me. You have open space to walk around. There's ample
you had a
opportunity.
whole section to yourself.
I had a whole little row of seats to myself. So
you
really
could
cool.
have brought the whole family and then the extended family, and everybody would have had room.
Okay, so now when you talk about the Pistons playing the average teams, I do believe they have the capability with the talent that they have. They have the ability to shoot the three. They got an inside force presence with Andre Drummond who can scoop up the rebounds, and they can do some things. They got enough talent to be in the mix in the postseason. But now when you start looking at playing teams that are of quality, you start looking at the nitty-gritty, and one of the things that the Pistons struggle with is more guys than Andre Drummond need to rebound. When they get out-rebounded offensively and defensively, they struggle with possessions, and then other teams can take advantage of that. So on defense and rebounding, which is a concern of every basketball team, they are concerned regarding, making sure that you have at least an opportunity to get second chances on offense if you miss, and then not allowing your opponents to get second and third chances. But better teams like the Spurs, better teams like potentially Golden State coming in pretty soon this week, you got to play pretty much to your capabilities. And similar to other teams, you go through scoring droughts. You have situations where not everybody's clicking all at once. There are some games where Avery Bradley doesn't bring it, some games where Tobias Harris, there are some games where Tobias Harris doesn't bring it, but when the Pistons compete, when they play well, everybody's rebounding, there's a better emphasis on defense, they're spreading the ball around, and everybody can compete. At the same time, you have to be honest, and you have to recognize that this is a process. There are teams that are a little bit better than the Pistons, and there's no shame in losing to the Spurs. I mean, they were a 3-point basket away from tying it up. So, some calls sometimes don't go your way. Some things just happen with travel and things like that. But like always, if Andre Drummond can bring it and he can be a dominant force like he was in previous games, then you have an opportunity to win some games. But the game you want to watch is the game versus Golden State. And I think there's going to be an advantage, too. It's going to be at home, and Steph Curry's now battling an injury, so he might not be part of that contest as well. So it'll be nice because this game on Friday, you got to put out a good performance because you're going to have a lot of people in the seats. You're going to have a lot of asses watching what's going on because people are starting to hype up the Pistons. They got a winning record. They're very well coached, but you can't hate on them when they lose because of the fact that there are times where there are some teams with more talent, with better coaching, and they can do some things. So you can't hate on the Pistons. You got to watch. I mean, against the Suns, what are you supposed to do? You're supposed to go out there and whoop their ass. And they went out there and they forced turnovers. They were able to play well in transition. Their offense was rolling, and it was a great performance. Against the Spurs, not as efficient, but that's because Pop knows how to take things away. He knows, hey, these guys got to box out. They play awesome defense. They're able to rebound. Peek into the Pistons. They're entertaining. And shoot, if they want to keep giving free tickets, I'll definitely keep taking them. It's an awesome thing, man. First and foremost, like I said, in our journey of covering a sports team, you got to take your lumps. But hey, if you said 3 years ago, would a professional team, hold a ticket for a podcaster, you think you were crazy. But they took care of me, and I'm very happy that they did.
All right, I want to know what you made of this article by Bradford Doolittle of ESPN. In the article, he says Miguel Cabrera should be traded for his own good. He goes on to say that the rub is Cabrera's coming off his worst season, one in which he labored through with back injuries. The eventual diagnosis was 2 herniated discs, which he got scared off, which might scare off 29 other teams. Cabrera has 5 years and $154 million left on his contract, plus a couple of years of options after that. Now, he continues to say that from a statistical standpoint, there is the fact that Cabrera has never had a season close to the one that he had in 2017, but his OPS was still only 8 points below the league average. So even as bad as he was still really close to the mean of the entire Major League Baseball. The projections will irrevocably see him as a prime bounce-back candidate. Also, according to StatCast, no player saw a bigger disparity between the quality of his balls struck and his results. In fact, no player was close, meaning that he hit the ball really hard. It just didn't amount to a whole lot. So what do you make of this?
Do I think that he would benefit from a fresh start? Obviously, because of the fact that right now, going into the season, all the talk is negative. Nobody thinks the Tigers are going to win. The ballpark probably is going to be really empty. So for him, what's the motivation for him to compete now? He's going to get a huge check. He's going to be professional. But obviously, when you talk about athletes and what they want to win. And I know he's being sold a bill of goods by the organization. They're telling him, yeah, we're in this process. Yeah, we can win faster than what people are talking about. But the truth of the matter is it's going to be at least 5 or 6 years before the Tigers are anywhere even close to World Series competitive. So the phone's been ringing. The organization's been calling other organizations saying, hey, what will it take to get Miguel off of our books? And it may still happen, but you need Miguel to play well. You need him to have a decent season. And I would say that it's about probably 60% that in 2018 he might be traded, because the offer that could come in for a contending team for a guy like Miguel Cabrera, if he's batting around 300, 15 home runs at the break, 50, 60 RBIs, and he's the old Miguel and he's healthy, you could bank. And you would have to, if you're truly thinking about rebuilding and you really want to get assets and talent, you got to hope for two things. You got to hope that a couple teams are dealing with some injuries or are dealing with some offensive issues and they need a hitter, and you got to hope that he produces. The worst case scenario is he's injury plagued and he starts to fade significantly. Would he benefit from a change somewhere else? Absolutely. And if I was him, I'd ask for it. I'd say, look, it's done. My time here is done. I thank the city. I thank the organization. I want to win. This ain't winning, and we'll see how it affects him and the rest of the team when they lose 90 games this year plus. It's going to be a bad year, bro.
What do you think about possibly a positional change for him? Moving him from first base to DH and maybe moving Nick Castellanos over to first base.
That can help prolong his career. He'll feel better, but the name of the game is winning.
At least keep him off the IR the way I would think.
The name of the game is winning, and they're going to play with a bunch of young talent. If you're about winning, then staying in Detroit the next couple of years, he's going to grow more frustrated. You might see some more outwardly signs of his frustrations when the team goes through some losing streaks.
Speaking of frustration and not winning, what's wrong with the Red Wings? They've dropped 7 of their last 8 games and were completely embarrassed last Saturday in a 10-1 shelling versus Montreal.
And the game before, too, that series was bad.
And now they're off for a little bit of a stretch, picking back up on Saturday afternoon.
But I did have an opportunity to visit with Andrea's friends, my wife, and we got a chance to sit and watch the Winnipeg game. And you say to yourself, wow, that was a complete performance versus a team that had won some games. I think they had won 17 games up until that point and were doing some quality things. Up until this point, the Red Wings have not put together a streak of quality performances where special teams, offense, defense, goaltending is put together. When they do it, they can compete. They can put the puck in the net. They can do some things. But the compete level, what happened versus Montreal was really eye-opening, because Montreal's not known as a team that puts the puck in the net 16 times in 2 games. The 10-1 performance, the organization took a big hit because all the players came out and said, we embarrassed the Red Wing logo, we embarrassed the organization. What the hell they were doing? They were giving up 2-on-1s like it was going out of style, breakaways. They hung 2 goaltenders out to dry. To give up 10 goals in a game is eye-opening. You got to look at it. And so what's some of the reasons that happened? Well, obviously, they don't got enough talent on defense. They don't got enough talent where you say to yourself, yeah, I want Jonathan Ericsson. Yeah, I want Cronwall. Yeah, I want Green. Collectively, they're okay. But beyond that, are they talented enough to stop a team that's on fire? Not really. So you're going to have basically what you have now is a 500 team that's struggling to make the postseason. And Ken Holland now kind of has put the thoughts of the organization out there via the public on Fox Sports Detroit during the Winnipeg game. He said, look, these next 2 weeks are huge in terms of what we're going to do with the future of this season. And unfortunately, similar to the Detroit Lions, I'm hoping that they lose, because that way then we get rid of an Abdelkader, we get rid of a Zetterberg, we start the process of actually cleaning house, because you can't start a rebuild light. You got to go all the way through and do this rebuild. And I do think that the avenue of success for the Red Wings is to tank. Unfortunately, I hate to say that, but you have to tank to get top 5 draft picks. And so that's how you do it. That's how you take care of business. What's going on with the team? Biggest problem is coaching. Jeff Blashill is not evolving at the level that we all would like in terms of, the message that's getting across. When you chirp at your best players, inevitably they're going to give up on you. And that effort versus Montreal, I think maybe was a message maybe to the coach saying, look, they gave up. They did not perform well. It was glaring. There was no reason for it. Montreal does not enforce their will on a lot of people, so they gave up. For whatever reason, they did not perform that game. Maybe it was a message. Maybe it was something that was, subconscious. But at the same time, I think from the top down, Jeff Blashill's not doing a good job. Ken Holland has not put enough talented pieces around the talent on this team, because outside of Larkin, Athanasiou, and Mantha, I'd let go of everybody else. You got 3 talented players. You got a couple goaltenders you can roll with, but that's 5 players on a 20-man roster. You need 15 new players. Not enough talent. You're not going to have Darren Helm, Franz Nielsen, Abdelkader perform every night. Yeah, glimpses. You'll get goals here and there, but consistently across the board, you don't have enough horses to do the job. It's unfortunate, but you better bring in some in the next 2 or 3 years. Most people don't have that confidence. Whenever we bring up the Red Wings, the first thing people say is Holland fired yet? That's what they're waiting for. They're just waiting for the next guy to bring in the talent because the confidence level that the guy picking the groceries is pretty damn low, and the confidence of the coach that's stirring the drink and cooking the ingredients is pretty low too. I think that the majority of the fan base wants Blashill and Holland. They want him fired.
I don't think Holland's going to last too much longer.
I don't know about that.
As far as Blashill goes, I'm not sure, but I don't think Holland's
What'd you think about what you saw with the Rings in the last week?
Brutal.
It was brutal. That was bad.
I mean, I think it just goes to reinforce what we've been talking about all along.
Not enough talent.
Yeah, they don't have enough guns to sit there and go up against other teams. And I really feel like they are a team.
They need to tank. They need to
still stuck.
Let it go all the way. Yeah,
they're a team that is still trying to get by the way you used to be able to get by in the way that they used to win championships. The game has evolved, and they have not. And that's kind of where I'm at with them.
Disappointing, but as long as they compete, as long as they don't get shelled and embarrass your organization, go out there and see what you can do. I just feel like when you go up against the quality teams, you see what they're able to do. The opponents are able to enforce their will on the Wings a lot more than the Wings are. It was nice to see them do it against the Jets, but can you do it against Boston? Can you do it against Tampa? Can you do it against Montreal? In your own division?
Yeah.
You got to do stuff against your division.
10-1 is embarrassing.
It is. But Jeff Blashill said it. He said, look, a month ago, people thought we were competing pretty well. We had a bad 2-week stretch. Let's have a good 2-week stretch and see what happens. Is the confidence level high? No, but we'll see what happens. All right, sir. Great podcast. Always enjoy the conversation. A lot of good things to talk about in the world of Detroit sports. Always enjoy the chat each and every week. Follow us on Twitter at Detroit Podcast. Follow Adam on Twitter at AdamRSTROZ. See everybody next week.
Go Lions, I think.
This was locker room talk.
Second dick.
Sorry, Detroit. Didn't quite work out.
And all I can say is Detroit Sports Podcast scores.
I get voices in my head. They counsel me. They understand. They talk to me.